I thought there'd be like an explosion. There's an explosion of us.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is July 21, 2024. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything, and please subscribe. We also want to thank the New York Finnegan's Wake Group for introducing me to our guest today, Paul Oratofsky. Is that correct way to pronounce
Right
it?
on, right on.
Paul, where in the heck you calling in from?
Manhattan, Greenwich Village.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Pastrami on rye with mustard and a side order of well-done French fries and Dr. Brown's celery tonic. That is
Dude, let's eat.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing that has ever been invented for mankind.
Where are we going to buy it in New York City?
There are a few places. They're pretty pricey now. They're a rarity. There's Second Avenue Deli, 33 East 33rd Street.
What did it used to cost you, and what would it cost you now?
Oh, it used to cost something like $12. Now it costs.
Oh my God! And now what would it be?
You know, I bet it was even less than 12. I bet it was 8. And now it costs something like $25 to $35.
Wow!
For one goddamn sandwich. Excuse my language.
Paul, that's what this series is all about, is having fun.
Good.
What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Verbally, I'm big on language.
Okay, verbal, yeah. And you're covered with books in the background. I imagine you grew up being a reader. Let me sidetrack for a second. Did you become a reader, 1, because your parents told you to, 2, they did it as an example, or 3, on your own?
Well, first of all, I don't consider myself a reader.
Okay.
I labor over everything I read. It takes me a long time to read. I read every word and I reread. Yeah. My parents hardly read it all. I hardly had any books at home at all.
But I mean, you do. You're saying you don't consider yourself a reader, but the beauty of Zoom is I get to sit in your bedroom and you're covered with books in the background. Okay, so verbal was a good answer. Why do you think, Paul, humans collect or gather information?
Why do they collect or gather information?
Yeah.
I think it's innate in us. You see, we're partly made of information. Our cells work by passing information. It's like part of our makeup.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Capiche?
I get that's very good. Okay.
This is my living room. By the way, this is my living room, not my bedroom.
Okay. And you answered the next question. Is it more innate or more invented? So you answered that without me even asking it. Do thoughts create emotions?
Well, I mean, people react emotionally to hearing thoughts.
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Well, that's good. See, you answered it with a line, but then you answered it with a question. And so that's what this series is all about, is inventing new questions. So that was perfect. So fill in the blank. Well, let's do the thinking one. Is thinking more innate or more invented?
No, it's innate. I think we come with thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fill in the blank, Paul. I don't know what I think until I...
Oh, what a nice question that is. I don't know what I think until I'm conscious of the thought. I'm not sure.
That's good.
That's right. I don't know what I think until I could think things that I'm probably not even conscious of.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what I'm thinking until there's like a focus happens.
Yeah.
Which amounts to my being conscious of what those thoughts are.
No, that's really good because George Lakoff, the neuroscientist, says we operate 80% unconsciously. So
Yes.
that's a good question. It's a good answer. You're saying when I'm conscious of thought. See, McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it.
Well, but you have to be conscious of it before you could articulate it. Those are both articulations, and I don't think you could articulate anything until you're conscious of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But what interesting questions, because they highlight parts of ourselves that we're not always conscious of.
Well, that's exactly what this series is about. So thank you. Can humans think without language?
Absolutely. Can humans think without language?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the thought comes first, and the language articulating it comes later.
Yeah.
Comes after the thought. I mean, thought is almost like a feeling. It's a
Well, that's good. You're anticipating a lot of our discussion because Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I get a pastrami on rye.
Dude, you're making me more hungry and more hungry. Especially, I don't know about the French fries well done. I like that idea, but the cream soda really gets me.
No, not cream soda. Oh, highly negative.
Oh,
Dr.
sorry.
Brown's Cell-Ray Tonic.
Dr. Bronner's what?
Dr. Brown's Cell-Ray Tonic. CEL-RAY.
A Cell-Ray Tonic. I'm sorry.
It's got a crispness.
No, Browns.
It's got a crispness like ginger ale, but it's a bit sharper.
Oh, I want to try one.
You got to try that, and you got to get French fries well done. I mean, that's part of the that's part of the system.
Yeah, but what an answer, boy. Okay,
but that's a great. Let me be more serious. That's a great question. What do you do when language fails?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what do I do when I have a thought and I can't articulate it?
Well, it's more, when language breaks down implies when you're ordering the sandwich and the waiter doesn't understand what you're saying, it's called communication breakdown. I say when language breaks down, it's implying verbal. It could break down like it did with you and Joyce. The words on the printed page didn't quite happen. When language breaks down, what do you do? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I sigh. It's it's a failure. It's a failure of one kind, and it's a frustration. And I might keep trying, but the first reaction is a disappointment.
Yeah,
is a feeling of disappointment.
No, it's funny because one guy said, I loved it. He goes, group hug.
Oh, that's great. Great idea. What a great response.
Yeah. Well,
turning
dangerous nowadays. A group hug could be dangerous.
That's true.
Anyways, now, Paul, you anticipate this. Your observations of humans in general. Are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Well, from the way this country politically is going, I'd say we're 50-50.
Yeah. And that's funny.
As far as how many people are actually think and how many just feel and don't think.
Yeah.
But everyone feels, I mean, but not everyone thinks. So that's a slightly different bent on it.
No, that's good.
Everyone feels that what we are feeling beings. I think that's what we are.
Yeah.
But not everyone is able to think. There are people that just don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because when I say to people, are we more feeling or more thinking beings? 80% go, I think we're more feeling beings.
Oh, that's cute.
And
and do the others say, I feel we're more thinking?
No, there's one friend who says that to counter that. in when we go round robin in a meeting live with people in a room. But we invented, you can't separate feeling from thinking, even though you did it well, because they're so interconnected, but we think we can separate them because we invented the word feeling and we invented the word thinking. So
but these words were invented to be, they're the manifestation of our consciousness of these things.
Yeah.
And I had an epiphany when I was 17 years old. I still remember it, where I realized that I am an entirely feeling being, but the top and they're like layers of an onion in me, and the very top layer is the thinking layer. So I really think thinking is actually one of the ways that we feel. But it's a way that we feel it's the only way that we feel that we're able to connect with another person through.
Yeah. I really like what you're saying, Paul, and we're going to get in deeper that, but I have to investigate that right now. Where do you think you got that? From reading philosophy, studying, talking to people? Where did that come from?
Okay, I was taking a literature course in college, and there was a poem about clouds, and I was thinking of what the interpretation of the poem was, and then I realized that I can interpret the poem to be anything I want, and that clarified for me the distinction between feeling the poem and thinking involved with it. I realized that the main event that was going on with me was feeling the poem, and second to that was trying to articulate thoughts about it. So that's when I became conscious of that distinction in me.
Yeah, that's so heavy because it reminds me of a poet that I really liked growing up, Richard Brautigan, who said, "Everybody has their role in life, and mine is clouds."
Oh, that's cute.
Cute. But
I remember Brautigan something about he wrote some silly. The title was some trout fishing in America.
That's this most known piece. But do you know the name of the poem about clouds you were reading, or the poet?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, no worries. So the other two things in this regard is Bridget Bardot goes, "When I make love, I don't think." I'm like, good luck. How can you turn your brain off? You know, you're doing the most sensuous thing your body can do, but that's like people who meditate sometimes say, well, think about not thinking. And then there's also a bumper sticker on a car in my street, and it says, "Don't believe everything you think." And I say, well, you could say, "Don't believe everything you feel."
Well, they're different things, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very different thing. I mean, when you say don't believe everything you think, I think it's talking about the veracity of the thought rather than the fact of thinking.
What's veracity mean?
Well, whether it matches the real world or not. The truth of it.
Great word. That's truth?
Yeah, it's the truth. It's whether it's a fact. I mean, that's when people say don't believe everything you think.
Yeah.
That's different from, not believing that you are thinking.
Okay, let's just jump to this then really quick. Shelby Foote, "A fact is not a truth until you love it." Any reaction to that quote?
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what does one thing have to do with the other?
Yeah.
You could love a fact, you could love a statement, and it not be true.
Yeah. Two questions from Alan. And by the way, Paul, this is really fun. You get it. I'm having a ball. And
Thanks. I am too, actually.
There's two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
I would say, well, that's a cute question. I mean, it presumes a soul in a way that it's like physical. Or who was that? Your wife, your girlfriend?
That was my wife. Yes, she lived
loves pastrami on rye.
She lived in the Greenwich. She lived across from Village Vanguard for 17 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she loved living in New York. So
yeah, I love
going to the delis and everything. So the second Turing question is:
yes,
can machines think?
No.
Yeah,
I mean they could figure out stuff. Here it depends what you mean by thinking.
Yeah,
thinking as it applies to us humans, I would say no.
Yeah.
But I'm a software engineer. I could make software that behaves as if it's thinking. That somebody looking at it would think it's thinking.
Yeah.
But thinking is a function of a living being. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I'll go along with someone who says a machine can think. I don't really feel it, but I could see entertaining it and playing with it a bit.
Yeah, and again, I didn't tell you. You put the questions into the context you want, which you're doing fine. I welcome tangents, stories, anecdotes, whatever.
That's great. That makes you a great interviewer.
Thank you. The next question is: do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Oh, I would say I wouldn't call it happiness. I would say I more pursue aesthetics.
Wow.
Than meaning. Happiness is quite a loaded term, and it has many contexts and degrees and ambiguities.
Yeah, it's funny because people. Well, I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says happiness tends to not last, meaning tends to last. And then sometimes people change the word happiness. Well, I pursue joy. That's different than happiness. But you change the meaning word to aesthetics. So now I ask, what's the difference between aesthetics and meaning?
Well, aesthetics I see as feeling about objects.
Oh.
I see aesthetics as feeling about objects, and emotions are feelings about other living things.
Right.
And what was the other side of that versus thinking?
Well, it goes.
I mean, thoughts and feelings are different. So aesthetics might be. You might reword your question of which do I pursue more, meaning or pleasure?
I could change it. See, the thing is, when you ask the question a certain way for 40 years,
okay,
I do consider, and that's one of the main things I ask, Paul. It's me and you versus the wording on the questions. So some of these questions I have, and I will consider that. Change the word happiness to pleasure, but
right.
since it's since it's based on Viktor Frankl, I think I'm going to leave it, but I love that. That's what I welcome.
Okay.
This rewording. And so does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away?
That's a great question.
And are we more so detecting it or more so creating it?
That's a great question. And I would say impossible to answer. There's
what's your hunch, Paul? What's your hunch? What do you kind of lean a little more towards, creating consciousness or detecting it?
I would say consciousness gets create. Did you say consciousness or?
Yeah, consciousness. Yeah, are we more creating it or more detecting it?
It's hard to get a grasp on that because It's not, you're not talking about reality, you're talking about consciousness.
Well, again, it's
I see.
Let me suss it out for a second, Paul.
Yeah.
I like Lily Tomlin's comment. Reality is just a collective hunch. We know kind of collectively when someone says the word consciousness, we kind of feel that humans kind of know what we're saying. But again, it's a million things. You go to etymology, you go to dictionaries, you go, I didn't know that word meant that. But in essence, when I say these words, it's what we kind of collectively think. So a lot of people go, well, it depends on what you mean by thinking. Well, we all know kind of what we mean by thinking.
Yes.
But that I'm open for saying, well, it depends on what you mean by consciousness. I'm open.
I mean, consciousness is an awareness of thing, and we're aware, and we detect that through a feeling. It's really a feeling that registers. I mean, at the bottom line of everything is that the feeling is what really validates all these other things, and even logic I see as a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling that happens to coincide with other people's feelings, but
it's totally logic is a feeling. That's brilliant. But is awareness, let's just shift it. Is awareness more innate or more invented?
I think it's innate.
Yeah. Okay. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, speed of thought.
Wow. There's no right or wrong answers, Paul, but that one you got right.
I see. That's clear. I could cover huge distances in a microsecond.
Okay. Audre Lorde, the poet, said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague, Yvonne Rainer, said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
I'm confused about this question.
Okay, let me suss it out because I love the word.
I mean, because the comment that you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools, I don't agree with.
Right, that's fine. But this is funny because you brought up the word cute so many times. And this is how I explain this. Because people sometimes don't get it. Basically, the question is, what tool do you gravitate towards? You can apply the quote, and I always go, I put these cute quotes before these questions, and I use the word cute, and no one's ever used the word cute before I use the word cute. I mean, they're not cute. They're supposed to be like, oh, they're brain stimulators or whatever. But you don't have to agree with Audre Lorde. She's just saying, and I love to put it in the Frank Zappa realm. He said, who are the brain police? He didn't say the brain police are these evil capitalist consumers, or the brain police are the voice inside your head. He just asked the question. Audre Lorde is probably talking about white supremacy. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. But then Yvonne Rainer says, well, you can if you expose the tool. So the basic question is, what tool do you gravitate towards? And if you want to apply the cute quotes, you can.
The tool is language.
There you go. How easy is that? Hello.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake. Well, that's it. What kind of dessert do we have after the
great question. Great question. Flan caramel.
Oh my God. You got class, dude. We're talking. My mouth's watering. I'm hungry. Okay.
We're talking high cuisine here.
Highbrow intellectualism.
Highbrow Jewish cuisine.
Yeah, boils down to feeling for food. Okay. What new toy do you suggest?
What new toy?
Yeah. And again, you don't have to apply the word new. What toy do you gravitate towards?
Language.
There you go. You're hot. You're rolling. Okay. Now, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Oh, that's a nice question. Notice I didn't say cute. I said nice. What do I
You're on a
worry?
roll, Paul. I've been out. Let me tell you, I've been out. I had to cancel 3 interviews this week because my internet went out.
Oh my!
And
Oh,
with
that software problem.
well, I don't know if it was. Anyways, the guy came and fixed it, and I usually do 4 of these a week, and I'm on a roll, and I've like been out of it for a week, so it's refreshing to come back with someone who's having fun.
Oh,
You know,
thanks.
sometimes people take this too seriously. So, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I don't think I do.
Oh,
I mean, I can't be. That can't be. I'm just trying to think of what I worry about.
That can't be.
I can't be that I don't worry about anything, but I can't think of what I
Okay.
worry about at night.
Okay,
when I go to sleep.
here we go. McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race.
Great.
Then that artists mean poets, writers, painters.
Great. What a great observation.
They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So
Great.
we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Paul, I asked you a question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, the truth is hard to take. You know that Emily Dickinson poem that looking too close, you can't look too close to at the sun, or every man be blind.
Yeah,
it's very hard for people to accept what's really going on.
Yeah.
Is that relevant to your?
That's perfect. Yeah, no. To sun. Yeah. What's the name of Emily's poem? Do you know?
None of them have names.
Oh, okay. I'll look it up. I love that.
There, it's a first line, but
yeah, I'll look it up. No worries. Okay. Do artists
here? The line is: tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Those are the first 2 lines.
Tell all the truth, but tell it slant.
And that, you see how that connects. You can't tell things directly, or you'll be blinded by the truth.
Dude, we're going to go into truth, but a few more of these. Do artists have moral obligation?
Absolutely.
Wow. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Old ideas. I'm not afraid at all of new ideas.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Oh, yes. I actually have a picture in mind of me being brought into a cab by my mother from the hospital in which I was born. Wow. Impossible. It's impossible to be, but that is my earliest picture.
So you're like, what, 2 weeks old, or a week old, or a day?
Something like that.
Wow.
Now the next one after that was also clear. I was in a crib in a room by myself with my parents, so I was still like, just recently born, and there were a bunch of people around me chattering. This is before language or anything, and I remember the relief when they all left and it became quiet.
Wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Oh, what a nice question that is. Well, it can be both. I would say it's more a blessing.
Yeah.
How could it not be? I mean.
Yeah. Tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
Now, the term family, you're talking about my biological family, or any way I want to view that?
Yeah, again, it's you put in the context you want. I mean, basically, okay. is the family you were raised in, that's your immediate family.
Right.
Was someone within that had impact on you, and what was
Well,
it?
my mother, my mother was extremely supportive of me, and somebody I could talk to about anything. It really shaped the rest of my life.
Wow. And then outside your immediate family, same question.
I mean, the first person that comes to mind was a poet I studied with for 8.5 years, who I consider the most brilliant person I've ever known, and I consider him my guru in that he caused me to see the light. His name was Jose Garcia Villa.
And that's VIA?
Villa.
VILLA. Via. Okay, great. And that was in an academic setting?
Actually, I took 2 classes with him at the New School, and then he had a workshop in his home, and I attended that workshop. It was like every Tuesday evening, and I was with him for 8.5 years.
In what age are you?
I was about 25, I think.
About age 25.
Now that makes me think, I had a neighbor also who was extremely influential in me. He introduced me to classical music and literature and guitar and various other things. And that was much earlier in life. I was 10 years old. And he was a downstairs neighbor who was also a brilliant guy, who just befriended me. And he taught me things, and I just soaked it up. And it was he was extremely influential in my, I don't know, pursuing a lot of the things I pursue. Or
right.
I think that was all innate, but he sort of reinforced it and introduced me to things I had not been aware of, like classical music, you know.
Yeah. And then you are a guitarist when you?
Yes, I do play guitar.
Yeah. You play nylon string or electric?
Yeah, I play classical guitar, nylon.
Classical guitar, great. Okay.
That's nylon, right?
That's nylon. Wow, I love it. Okay. So were you raised a particular religion?
No. My parents are ethnically Jewish, and they left it up to me whether I was interested in pursuing the religion or not. And I went to one class in it, and I said, no, this is not for me. And they were actually anti-religious also. So, but they didn't push me to be that way. They gave me the choice. I could do what I wanted. And I chose not to embrace religion. It did not ring true to me.
Do you pray?
No.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I mean, the notion of God is absolutely ridiculous. I can't answer that's like saying if Donald Duck, talked to me, what would I say to him?
No, what would you want Donald to say to you?
Or let's not use the word Donald, because let's use Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, Bugs. Oh, I love Bugs, man. Okay, that was good.
But I could answer that in a different vein.
Go ahead.
That joins my view of where we come from and what my equivalent of what others call God is. So I would say, put that question as, for those who created us, what would I want to hear from them? Is that
yes? That's good.
I would want to hear from them some confirmation that some of these observations I've made about people and life might be on target.
Really good. You know what? 80
real fan.
Well, Paul, it's like this. You said it a different way. 80% of people answer that. They want God to say to them, "You did a good job."
Well, that's almost the same thing in a way.
It is, but you didn't say it in those words. No, so you're a wordsmith. That's what I like. That's what your language is, your main tool. It's like, it's easier. And then the other one,
I say touche to that.
Yeah, well, the other one they go is people go, "Welcome home."
Oh, that's cute, actually.
Yeah,
there's that word "cute" again.
Yeah, you know what I want, God. I always tell people, what do you want God to say to you? I was like, who killed Kennedy? Dude, come on. Let us know. Come on.
Getting down to brass tacks, right?
Come on. Let's get to it.
I'd want God to say to me, Gesundheit. Even if I don't sneeze.
That's great. Okay, Paul, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
No, I feel evil people exist. I also have another name for them as destructive people. They're destroyers. They're destroyers rather than creators.
Yeah.
They gravitate to tearing things down rather than building.
Yeah. The basic, really hidden question there is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And this one, again, I'll open it up with a few cute quotes, nice quotes. Maybe they're nice. Alan Watts, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Wow.
JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I believe it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I think you diffuse them. I think if you acknowledge your enemy and what is about them that makes them your enemy, I think that leans towards diffusing them. Yeah. Defusing and diffusing.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, thanks.
James.
You're very supportive, very pleasant.
You'll love this, Paul. One guy, I have a tendency to just go, oh, that was good, thanks. And this guy says to me, quit pandering to me. I was like, dude, that's just my personality.
On the contrary, it's encouraging.
Yeah, that's what
I'm supportive.
It's and they're like, don't pander to me. So, anyways, I get
no, I don't see what a negative way to see that. You know, it does nothing but open someone up and relax them.
That's what I'm after.
Absolutely.
Okay. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, but that misses the point. The tree is not the projected tree is not the point. It's part of an artwork.
Yeah.
You know, it's not to experience a tree. It's a beginning salvo of a story or a work of art.
Yeah. Well, let's go on art just for a second. You brought it up. We'll get deeper into it, but here's two quotes on art I would just love for you to respond to if you have any. This is Mike Kelly. Art is making your problems other people's problems.
That's ridiculous.
Here's
what I feel about that. Okay. Yeah. I'm big on art and science.
Yeah.
And for me, science is the exploration of the world outside myself, and art is the exploration of the world inside myself.
That is amazing. You get this bonus question because you just said I didn't even have to ask you, because one of my questions comes up sometimes. What's the difference between art and science? But let me ask you Fanny Howe. She's a poet. She also says a comment about art. The point of art is to show people that life is worth living by showing that it isn't.
I don't agree with that. Art is the result of play. It's aesthetics, and it's pure. It's the demonstration of joy. Yeah. I once found the question. The New York Times used to have a section called Art and Entertainment. Yeah. And I thought about that, and I thought, that's interesting. What's the difference? And I came to the conclusion that art is a vehicle for facing life, and entertainment is a vehicle for avoiding life.
Oh, art, face life, and entertainment is a void life. Yeah.
Entertainment's a distraction, whereas art is confronting you with what is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's that holds
No,
water.
that's you.
I kind of liked the very notion of the difference between art and entertainment, and I think that's a decent answer for starters, maybe.
Yeah. Then let's go right into this, because this is McLuhan in 57. It's misleading to suppose there's any basic difference between education and entertainment. This distinction merely relieves people of the responsibility of looking into the matter. It's like setting up a distinction between didactic and lyric poetry on the ground that one teaches and the other one pleases. However, it's always been true that whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So there's a lot going on there, but the basic question is, he's saying whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So the difference between education and entertainment, the way you learn poetry, it seems as though it wasn't so academic. Like
Correct.
Jose was sort of like, but someone even said, Paul, no, whatever displeases teaches more effectively. So I'm sort of, the core of what I'm after is your response to this. Whatever pleases teaches more effectively. And is that the difference between education and entertainment?
That's pretty complicated there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a lifelong learner, and when I learn something new, I find that pleases me.
Yeah.
So it comes in that order. I feel like I've learned something, and that's very pleasing to me.
Yeah.
The other side of that, I think I'm trying to keep on topic, is if being pleased is a learning thing, and I would say that depends on. I don't. The two are sort of in not quite this linear connection.
Yeah.
I mean, also, there are things we learn by being displeased.
That was funny, because no one ever brought that up until recently. Says, no, I get taught more by what displeases me. But you don't pursue, you didn't go to Jose's class to be displeased. You went
Correct.
there to study poetry.
No, right. Well, those are not the displeasures that teach. They're the accidents of life that, they're painful situations that teach you to avoid those pain causing things.
Yeah.
So they're sort of apples and oranges, because I mean, not everyone is pleased by learning.
Yeah.
And some are so pleased by it that they call themselves lifelong learners, and they're always looking to learn as much as they can.
Yeah.
And how it registers is a pleasing feeling of having learned something new.
No, it's exactly what I do these interviews for, is to learn. I was like, well, I'm good. Just learning. So here's a question that McLuhan came up with that I don't bring up that often, but it's interesting because he didn't say, this is what that last statement, he sort of says it as a statement. He was more about percepts than concepts. In fact, one of his colleagues said, McLuhan teased us to believe his percepts were concepts, because he's in academia, which is concepts, but he was really saying, I have a question here. I have a probe. What do you think? But he had to say it as though he was an academic, like he was saying a theory.
So now precept, you're talking about
no, not
percept. You're talking about perception.
Perception is different than conception.
Absolutely.
And he was acting more on perception, which is your thing, feeling.
Right.
But he had to disguise it because he was in academia teaching people literature.
Yeah, but they all go together. I mean, you perceive.
Well, we want it. We want
You know, you perceive something, and then concepts come out of that.
I know, but that's because you're more open to that. Mainly academia is, here's something that's a theory. Now repeat it back to me. Okay, you got an A. I mean, that's academia is so, and I mean, in software, we will get into your pursuit in software. Isn't it more like, hey, we don't act on hunches in percept, we act on
Concept.
Linear concepts, data.
It's data.
Data.
Right.
Okay.
And perceptions are not really data. They're more feeling.
Right.
They're more in the aesthetic realm.
That's it. So here's the question that he asked. I'm just asking your reaction to the question. How about technologies as the collective unconscious and art as the collective unconsciousness? So he's basically saying there's technology and there's art. So there's the pen and then there's the drawing with the pen. So the technology is the pen, the drawing is the art. And he says, okay, the technologies he's just suggesting are the collective unconscious, and art is the collective unconsciousness.
I don't relate to that at all.
You don't. Is there any difference between conscious and consciousness?
Well, yeah. One is the activity, and one is the name of it. That's like saying, is there anything but different? Is there a difference between how you feel, how taste, and eating?
Yeah,
They're two different dimensions.
Taste is the activity,
right?
And then what's the
well, eating is a labeling of the activity that
is the labeling of the is the name of the activity.
Right. They're different realms. I mean, one is.
That's you answered it fine. That's fine. Okay. So now, what you're basically these. I mean, let's just say three things that you pursued mainly: software, but poetry and photography.
Okay.
Are those sort of your three main things?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Not in that order, but yes.
Right. Well, let's go to software first. What first was your tipping point to go into software? Where is it? What are you studying in high school and college? And then you go, oh, that's my calling.
Oh, great. I was brilliant in math ever since I was a young kid. And I was a math and physics major in college. And I was thinking, my first thought was to be a scientist, actually a nuclear physicist. And then I realized that it's all very detailed work. On a very tiny basis. It's microscopic work. And that wasn't for me. So I didn't know how. And I have an excellent sense of logic, without bragging to say. And I didn't know, I wasn't sure where to wield that. I didn't want to keep studying math because that's all theoretical. I wanted it to be part of the world. And I passed somebody this was before computers were really, it wasn't before they were invented, but it is before there were even classes in it. And I heard the word computer walking down the campus. And I said, that's for me. Wow. I had no idea what a computer was.
What college campus was it?
Brooklyn College.
That's funny. You just heard the word and go, okay, that's for me.
I heard the word and I said, that's for me. And I stuck to it. I insisted on being a computer programmer without even knowing what the hell it was.
Okay, let's go to this, Paul. Yeah. What's your main tool?
Language.
Oh, language. Okay.
So I'm sorry, I didn't let you finish the sentence, though.
No, that's your main tool in software is language. Okay.
Software is coding. Coding is it's using a language. Absolutely.
Coding. Yeah. Okay.
That's the only tool.
Now, what McLuhan says is everything we invent extends some humanness. What does computer language coding extend? Like knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Maybe even non-tangible, like religion or philosophy, extends consciousness.
Oh,
What does coding, what humanness is extended?
Logic, our sense of logic.
Oh, sense of logic. Okay, now it's really good. Now the next one is Kubrick. Screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker.
That's cute.
That's cute. Good old Stanley. He's right from your neck of the woods, right?
Well, they're both cute.
Okay, now what role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing code?
When I'm writing code, intention.
When you're doing software design.
What role does intention play?
Yes.
Well, that's the guide. I'm intending to build a system that's functional for the environment that's using the software.
Yeah.
So I have to know what the people using this tool want to do, and it's satisfying those functions.
Yeah.
Does that answer that?
That answers it, because the next question you kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your user when you're creating your code, when you're writing?
120%.
That was great. Okay, now let's switch.
That's what it's for. It's a purely functional.
Yeah.
Building software systems is purely functional to perform a function in an environment where people are trying to do something.
But Paul, there's one element. There's how many years you've been doing it? There's a creativeness. It's not just logic and math, right? There is some. Can't you be creative doing it?
Well, you can be creative in that you could be more clever in making more efficient code.
That's what I'm asking about. What role does cleverness play in you writing?
A huge role. A huge role. That's the meat. That's my meat and potatoes. That I'm a very clever software designer. I don't know if that answers that.
It answers it, but what's another word for clever? Suss out that word.
I would say something like what's the term? I just blanked on a term. Resourceful. It's a resourcefulness. It's a matter of using the resources as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
And it's just a knack. I don't know,
Yeah.
It just comes across as a knack. Some people have a knack for doing something better and more efficiently than others. I don't know where that comes from. Talent.
But that's what I was going to ask. Did you get that more from the way your parents raised you, or on your own?
I think it's just inborn in me.
It's in DNA?
I would say it's in not quite the DNA, but the correctness of my DNA. Okay, so that's sort of in my DNA. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that. I seem to have been clever since I was a little kid.
Okay, now the next two callings in your life, photography and poetry, what came first?
I became fascinated and in love with language. I clocked that at having started when I was 11 years old.
So at age 11, what kicked you over into loving poetry?
The language, it's the way things are put, and that I first remember that from that novel, A Man Without a Country. It's not the information, it's how things are put. And to me, that's what poetry is about. It has nothing to do with information or conveying ideas or anything like that. It has to do with, it's an aesthetic issue. And that's what I feel is great about people like Shakespeare and Emily Dickinson, is their use of language, that they put things in ways that are just blow your mind. Sorry to use such a cliche there, but
no, that's good. So Man Without a Country is actually a novel by Hale.
Right. It's a novel about, yeah.
And you're reading it because your teacher told you to?
I don't remember where. No, I was 11, so I was in the like 5th grade or something. I don't know where I came upon it and why I read it, but there was something about how it worded things that really hit me and made me admire language.
Right. So let me just clarify, is that the difference between form and content? You're growing up reading and you finally read Hale and you go, oh, form is as important as content. Because
somewhat, not completely. Yeah. I mean, I think a form is the container for the language.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's not totally the form, it's still how the language is poured into that form.
Okay, now when you where's that tipping point where you start writing poetry?
I clocked it as my having started writing at 11. I don't know what that was. I was just fascinated with language, and I tried writing poems. I didn't even know what poems were.
Right. You tried writing them. So let's go with that same question. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing a poem?
I think intention is the initial driver.
Yeah.
So it's the initial impetus, and then something else takes over. Something else that I would call following an aesthetic navigator.
Yeah. An aesthetic navigator takes over. That's interesting.
Right. And also, there also there has to be a force against putting into language, against using already used language, cliches. It needs freshness, a new way of putting something.
Yeah.
So that's a bit different, but the intention is not. I don't feel that arts get created by what I or any artist wants to say. That's prose. Poetry and the arts are a different animal. They're driven by this aesthetics of this feeling about the correctness of and the interestingness of what comes out, whether it's word following other words or notes following other notes, or shapes on a canvas, colors next to other colors. There's an aesthetic event going on that is, to me, the main event in the arts, not any message.
Yeah. So the same question, Paul, what humanness is extended by your pen or your keyboard, your writing utensil when you're writing a poem?
Playfulness.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, playfulness. And so, what is the function of poetry?
It has no function.
That's a great answer. So here I'll read you a couple functions and no function. I love that.
That's its magic. That's the magic of all the arts, that they have no function.
Yeah.
That's why they are arts. When they have a function, it's a craft. It's not art, it's craft.
Yeah. You got it, man. That's one of my heroes in Venice Beach. He says art isn't.
Good. That's in the same ballpark. Yeah.
Okay, here's Kenneth Rexroth. The purpose of poetry is to woo your lover and subvert the bourgeois.
Bingo. Seduction. The arts are purely seduction.
Yeah. Okay, here's Gary Snyder. My task as a poet entails the work of seeing the world without language, then putting that seeing into language.
Well, that just highlights why I'm not a fan of Gary Snyder.
Tell me why. Yeah, what's the deal?
I think he's way off base. He doesn't get what poetry is about. He's looking at function. He's not looking at what I believe is the main event in the arts. And that's to play and appeal to the senses, to the aesthetics.
Yeah, I asked Gary in a public performance at a library. I said, "Oh, well, I haven't asked you this question yet, but let me ask you this question first, and then I'll tell you what he." Okay. One poet said, T.S. Eliot said, "Poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?"
Oh, that's a nice question. I don't know if that has an answer. I mean, once you talk about dialogue, you're already talking about something external. I would say, it's feelings.
Yeah, that's good. There's a great experimental filmmaker in your neck of the woods, Abigail Charles. I says, "What language is your inner dialogue in?" And she goes, "I wish I knew." Okay, and here's Gary. I didn't say, I set it up. Poetry is outing your inner dialogue. Can you tell me what language your inner dialogue is? I worded it, "Can you tell me?" instead of "Tell me."
I see.
And I says, "Can you tell me what language your inner dialogue is?" And he goes, "No."
I was going to say that myself.
Yeah, but you did say it, but then you elaborate on it. You says, "I can't," but no, you said, "I don't have an answer," but then you sussed it out to being feeling. Okay, so here's Leo Bersani, who just died about last year. He studied Mallarmé, the symbolist poet. And he said the very crises which threatens the writing of poetry sustains poetic composition. So any thoughts on that line? And I can read it again if you want.
Yeah, read it once more.
The very crises which threatens the writing of poetry sustains poetic composition.
I'm sorry, but that is gibberish to me.
Yeah. I think what he's saying is
he's trying to find. Yeah, go ahead.
He's trying to say, I think, because crises isn't the right word and threaten isn't. He's saying,
I agree.
When you try to write a poem, that is what makes you write what's the poem.
Well, I would say if you try to write a poem, that's going to interfere with it. I think you have to.
Yeah, right. That's it.
It's a matter of playing. Playing is not work. When you're trying to do something, it's work. But then again, when you sit down to write a poem, you are trying to write a poem.
Yeah.
But you're looking for a flow. You're not, you're looking to be led by it rather than leading it.
Yeah. That's interesting, Paul, because I'm not a fan of Bukowski. I know Charles Bukowski's an important poet, but I'm not a fan. And he basically has that great thing where he says, I don't sit down and try to write poetry. It just
comes out.
It just comes out,
I'm not a fan of his either. I didn't read a lot of his, but what I did read did not appeal to me.
Yeah, it's like he's the most stolen book in bookstores.
Right. That's funny.
So now to photography. Where's your interest in photography? Where's your tipping point to go, oh, I'm going to pursue photography?
Oh, that's a nice question. Yeah. I on a whim, I went to Morocco, and on another way, a friend of mine took me, had me over for dinner, and he also invited this woman, and we fell in love. And we fell in infatuation, and she came with me. And I was in Morocco for about 5 months with her, and then she left. And to replace her, I went to Tangier, and I got myself a single lens reflex camera. And I took pictures of the town I was in, and I gave them to a photographic studio there. And the guy gave me back the prints, and he said, "Wow, these are great shots." And that hooked me. That was
you weren't trying to be a great photographer. You were just shooting him. What age are you about?
About 24, something like that.
You've continued to pursue photography your whole life then?
I fell in love with photography then.
Did you switch to digital eventually or not?
Digital just didn't do it for me.
You stayed shooting film your whole career?
No, I gave up. I stopped. At one point, I saw a digital print that I said, "Oh, this is." I couldn't tell if it was digital or a darkroom print, and I realized that at that point that digital had taken over. And I tried digital, but it just wasn't the same thing for me as darkroom photography. As working.
Oh, you mean you stopped being a photographer at what
Right.
age?
Oh,
just about
something like 62 or something like
62, yeah. So you shot photographs for like 40 years.
Oh, yeah, it was a long career. And I worked in a darkroom, and I made just black and white prints, and I loved it. But I think all the time I knew it was limited, because working in a darkroom is not a pleasant environment. You're sitting in chemicals.
Yeah.
You've got to move around gallons worth of liquid.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you spent 12 hours, and you come up with 12 candidate prints that you don't even know if they're going to be good until a couple of days later, when they sometimes change. And so I gave it up. But I was a digital photographer for a while, but I just it didn't move me as much as the black and white photography, darkroom photography.
No, I understand. And Paul, tell me your frame. What informs your framing aesthetic? Because we're raised like, see, my thing's a little tilted, but we're raised to be, the head's in the middle of this.
It's another aesthetic. It's an aesthetic issue. It's purely feeling about the composition. I mean, photography is an editing of the visual scene, and if you're able to compose, you have to look at what's there and compose it. Move it so that the composition is aesthetically pleasant.
It's interesting because Jean Cocteau said, "How'd you form your framing aesthetic?" He goes, "The way they put the knife and fork on the table." Because it's interesting, when Robert Frank came along and goes, "Oh no, you can have a shot like this."
You could. This is a matter also of content versus aesthetic.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm a big fan of abstract art in all the arts.
Really? Wow.
Well, that's where it's really happening. It's in the aesthetics of it, which is an abstract aspect of it. It's not in the message or the meaning that's conveyed. It's in the aesthetics. And I mean, and we could have as an example music, which is only abstract.
Yeah.
It just sounds. They just sounds, and they blow your mind if you are tuned to music.
Yeah, but there's an experimental avant-garde, and then there's the more we're conditioned. I mean, that's Stravinsky said there's no meaning in music, and everybody freaked out. They go, "What do you mean? I have lots of meaning in music." But I think he's coming more from what you were saying. But
Absolutely.
But then Charles Ives in Stockhausen and Schoenberg, they all play avant-garde, and that other people like, oh. So that's, I know.
Well, it gets pushed. It can get pushed.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, Bach is my is my second topmost artist, and his works are just, I mean, they're breathtaking.
Yeah.
And they're just these simple tunes that he develops and embellishes on with such intelligence and such aesthetic power.
Well, let's go to music for a second. My friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you can learn how to play Bach. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste? I mean, why did you gravitate towards Bach and not Barry Manilow?
It's because, yeah, I mean, you just have to listen to a lot of stuff, and then either taste develops or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I did something that I remember really was life changing. I had these books of where it was pages of tiny images, filled with tiny images on these pages. And I once did an experiment, and I looked at a page and I said, okay, which do I like best? Which of these images do I like best? Just as an aesthetic exercise. And that I think that exercised my tasting of aesthetics and opened up the world of aesthetics to me. It sort of solidified my being in touch with my feelings regarding artworks. So it's just a matter of exposure. It's like, you know, they say beer is an acquired taste, or wine. You just have to expose yourself to it and keep your taste buds open. And either, you know, you'll develop a refined taste or you won't. There's no gauges for it. All you could hope to do is find someone else whose taste matches and discuss why this piece works and that one doesn't.
What's more fundamental, music or language?
Oh, that's a nice question. Well, you know, I've been lately studying cell biology, and we are made of language. So in a way, that's more basic. But aesthetically, I would say music is more basic.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting question, and I think I can't answer it right now. But both of those are highly basic. The sense of music and musical taste, and the fact that we are made of language. I mean, DNA is purely a language. The nucleotides in DNA have no function other than to convey information. It's a language. It's not structural. We are not made of DNA other than that the DNA describes how to weave ourselves into a living being.
Yeah. What's an instrumental title, musical title that makes you laugh?
You mean a title of a piece of music?
Yeah, name a song that makes you laugh that's an instrumental.
You mean that just by the title of it?
No, by the song. Yeah, I mean it includes the title, but the title of the song. What's the song that makes you laugh? When you hear this song, it will make you laugh. Like, how could a song that has no words make someone laugh? So
Spike Jones did these really ridiculous things.
But Spike is I get Spike a lot, but Spike Jones is mainly a guy who uses lyrics. I'm saying that, you know, I mean, it's a legitimate answer. You mean a Spike Jones instrumental makes you laugh?
Yeah,
that's fine.
They're totally wacky, and I mean, I'm not sure I react with laughter to song titles unless they're really bad. Unless they're really bad.
Right. No, it's not the title, it's the song. Okay, let's go on.
Okay.
I asked Michael Apted 40 years ago, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it really flourished, this quick editing, in the 80s, to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So Michael Apted said, well, because we've learned to take in information faster. So I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster? Or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
I have no idea about that. I mean, I would think the more experienced you are to exposing yourself by information and processing it, the faster you would get at it.
Yeah.
So that would be a yes.
Can humans literally multitask?
No, I would say no.
What was the motive of the cave artist? Your hunch, your guess.
To document.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Compromise.
Dude, again, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right.
Touche again. I'm a fencer, by the way.
Are you really?
Yes, I am. I'm an épée fencer.
I'm using this word, he touched that as a verb.
That's nice.
How would you spell touched?
Touche, accent aigu, ed.
Yeah,
E accent aigu, two E's. The first one's accent aigu.
Oh, two. I got to put two E's.
I think so. I mean, this is a guess.
I'll look it up. That's good. I appreciate that. Okay, Paul, you've accomplished a lot. How do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Luck, skill, and ambition?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice question. I would say skill is at the top. And then I'm not sure. Then maybe luck, and then maybe ambition.
Two of my film heroes have this mantra: ignore yourself. There's no self-expression. In fact, Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
I said we're a vehicle. I think it's
really.
Yeah.
Can art making be egoless?
Yes, I would say yes. You just wanted a yes or no answer there, right?
No, you can expound on. Well, first of all, we got 30. I asked for 90 minutes. You want it? Can you go longer, or you got to go?
Sure.
Okay, then I can. I won't rush.
As long as you want. Well, it's not.
We can do we could end in 15 minutes and then do a part 2. But
it's up to you. I'm enjoying this right now.
Okay, let's keep going then. Is perception reality?
You know, that's like they're two separate things. You perceive reality. Well, no, perception is not reality. And yes, okay, here's my answer. No, perception is not reality. And yes, perception is reality.
That's good. That's Duchamp said, I'm going to contradict myself so I don't conform to my own ideas.
Great.
that is so brilliant. Okay. Why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless?
Oh, that's a nice question too. Why is it so difficult for them to consider?
Yeah, I'm not saying life is pointless. I'm saying, why is it difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless?
Well, because they're programmed. I mean, they're programmed to accomplish things and to get things done. It's like, it's just that opposite of art.
Yeah. Well, who programmed them?
Oh, they get programmed by the people surrounding them. And they get programmed by language.
There you go. Programmed by because that's the difference between Marx and McLuhan. Marx said the point of life is to change things. McLuhan says, dude, you can't change diddly squat. Your inventions change you. So did we invent language?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I strongly don't think so. We come with it's so language is so interesting and so innate that there's no way that it's an invention. People just start talking at some age, and dogs and every other animal doesn't.
Yeah.
You know,
well, that's what Chomsky says, right? That language is innate. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
well, I agree with that.
Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Lately?
Yeah.
My instinctive answer is yes, but can I name them? I don't think so.
Name one that impossible thing you believed in lately.
Oh, that's hard to do, and yet I'm sure as I am.
Okay.
I'm sure that there. Let me think a second. What that I think of? That's a hard one, and it's too interesting to dash off quickly.
Don't worry. If it comes to you, that's fine. Okay, Paul, tell me one major element of your creativeness, your Paulness in all you do that's stayed the same, and one major element that's changed in your last 40, 50 years. You know, since you're 11 years old, poetry, then code.
Well, I became more adept at language, so my vocabulary increased and my awareness of the sophistication of language grew.
The more adept at language is what's changed. What's stayed the same in these last 50 years?
I would say my playfulness.
Wow. What's your gut? Did you get that from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
I'm not sure. I think I would have gotten that on my own. My father he had a terrible temper. He was a little playful, actually. Yeah, my mother was playful too. I might have gotten that from my parents.
Yeah.
Or if not gotten the actual playfulness, been allowed it.
You allowed it, yeah. But is that, were you affected by comedy and humor? Is that playfulness involved with
that's recognizing playfulness in others. I don't know if that generated any in me. I sort of feel like from the very beginning I was just playful. I have a playful nature. Just as I seem to have an optimistic nature and
playful.
And a sense of humor that just seems to have been with me and has sort of saved me throughout my life.
But I mean, who were your humor heroes? Were there
any? Sid Caesar. You know, I'm a big absurdist, and he just was brilliant. I really took, Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
These are sort of absurdists, but they're brilliant.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness.
Oh, nice.
Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Oh, that's nice. I would say my sensitivity.
You mean you were too sensitive?
Yes, I tend to be someone that's categorized as a very sensitive person, something like that.
And then how did you turn it into a strength?
Well, I guess by accepting it and possibly also by using language. By using language to be able to look at it more directly and maybe see, what cause. I mean, sensitivity can also be called pain, unless you look at it positively as it's feeling. It's a strong feeling. So, I think language helps with that.
Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
When it takes you to become conscious of the situation.
Yeah. I asked my friend who wrote comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? He said, that's the job of satire. But if But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think dying is destructive. But Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. What's the function of satire?
Yeah, I would say it to help make you conscious of yourself, of what you're doing.
Yeah. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I think they have a different feeling structure.
Yeah.
Or a feeling system, something like that. Well, aside from that women can make babies, they could create life.
Yeah, that's physical. But then that begs the
Oh, that's
question:
true.
what caused matriarchy?
Well, the mother is the first protector and embracer and source of love. How could it not be? How could matriarchy not be?
Good.
Not be.
That puts it well. There's a line that goes, Paul, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. In fact, James Joyce said it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist.
So
Any thoughts? Any thoughts on this line, Paul? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, like one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
I can't accept that. There are things that come in from the outside that I do not create. The imbeciles I have to deal with, I have not created them.
Well, I wanted to go into some of these truth quotes, just a couple of them.
Sure.
Just your reaction, because you brought up truth early on, and that's sort of Louis Buñuel. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit pessimistic. It's a bit pessimistic. I mean, it suggests that you can never reach the end. But then again, it is true that the more we learn, the more we realize that there's more to learn, and that what we thought we learned is not quite the case. So I do go along with that.
Yeah, most people love it. They go, I agree with Louis Buñuel. But one guy finally says, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the cliche goes, the journey is more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey is more important?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good observation and way to word it. And they're fleeting. I mean, some of these you talk about as if they're absolute, but something is true, in at one moment, and the next moment it's not true, and it's not as if it wasn't true before. It was just a truth on the way to a bigger truth.
Yeah.
So I do believe in all that. The more we learn, the more the more there is to learn. I think that fits into that.
It's the flaneurs were in Paris in the 20s changing the world forever. And all they did was psychogeography. They just sat at the coffee house and were
psychogeography. That's great. The flaneurs,
they're just slackers. They
just wandered around taking in the world and supposedly learning, right?
Yeah, and that's what Joyce said. He said epiphany and everydayness. You stub your toe and you can have the epiphany as much as reading a great book.
That's right.
So here's Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever.
That's cute. I'd say that's too cute. That's too cute to be true.
Because she really cushions it with "it seems," but it does beg for Proust's question: on what occasion do you lie?
but it also, these also assume that these are are not relative and contextual.
Right. That, yeah.
And I do believe there are truths, but I also believe they change.
Yeah.
But
on what occasion do you lie?
Oh, that's nice. It's hard to find. I really honor the truth, and I believe it's important to both my art and science.
Yeah.
So I would have to. That would take more digging than I could do right now.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there are ways that I lie. I would lie to not hurt someone's feelings if there's really no fun. There's no light at the end of that tunnel.
That's what most people say, but I love Tom Waits. On what occasion do you lie? He goes, I didn't know I needed an occasion.
Oh, that's good. Touche.
How do you find peace of mind?
How do I find peace of mind?
Yeah.
Well, by working, by music, by being creative, by mingling with people.
Yeah.
By thinking, by taking a nap.
Oh, you hit that. That's the one I like. Okay. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Jack.
2, are we going to make it?
Yes.
3, where do we put it?
I can't answer that one.
4, who's cleaning it up?
There's a certain scatological flavor to all these.
Alan Watts is a comic too. Okay, the fifth Alan Watts. Is it serious?
I would say yes and no.
Yeah, I love that. That's what Zappa said. I'm very serious about being not serious.
There you go.
Okay, if you were walking down the street today, Paul, and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Oh, I would say good job.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Oh, definitely under, because if you have a cat, if it comes over and you have a cat, it's going to unroll the whole roll.
Dude, I get that answer, but 80% of people say over, and the patent has it going over. So I love when someone says under. They're like, I have a reason, and that cat thing comes up. The cat line comes up. I like that.
Oh, good.
If
I'm not the only. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm not the only one conscious of cats, even though I don't have one.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh, that's interesting, because I'm working on a book that I call Departures.
Oh, good.
And that might fit with a biography as well.
What they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Oh, that's cute. Lilac.
Oh, nice. I love that. Okay, if a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
Oh, my. I can't answer that. That's too far afield of me and what I'm made of.
Paul, tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had and never want.
That's it. Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah, it's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Oh, I don't. That would take some thinking also. I couldn't come up with a quick answer for that.
No worries. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would say thank you. I don't know what I would do.
Thank you. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Oh, I can't see any.
Yeah.
All the cultural shifts I see are unfortunate, in my view.
I get that answer more and more now. That's
Yeah,
spooky.
that's too bad. Yeah.
Utah Phillips said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
The rules for ourselves, or
Well, you put in the context you want. Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because it seems, I mean, you got to.
I rules seem more to me like an observation rather than
Yeah.
a driver.
Yeah.
So I would say, we observe what the rules might be.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the etymology on the word freedom is that giving oneself one owns laws. And
Nice.
so the basic question is, what does freedom mean to you now? But I'm going to set it up. T.S. Eliot said, freedom is only truly freedom when it appears against the background of an artificial limitation, which caused McLuhan said,
That's very
how are
nice.
you how are you to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads in the invisible teeth of technology and calling the whole thing freedom? So,
Oh.
what does freedom mean to you now?
Well, freedom is an ability to work within a structure.
Yeah.
I don't know if that fits.
No, but that begs where'd you get your work ethic from?
I think it feels like it's innate.
Really? Wow, that's funny because most people, Paul, say from their parents. And if you read the Wikipedia entry on work ethic, about the third paragraph down, it says, this might be a scam from consumer culture. But I mean, you said you find peace of mind through working.
Yeah.
But your main theme, most of this talk has been play.
Yes.
So how do you separate work and play? Is there a difference?
Well, yeah. Work is when it's directed and you have a goal. Well, that's too general because even when you are playing, there's a. I mean, if you're making a work of art, you're playing towards the goal of making a coherent work of art.
Yeah.
But in the usual world context, work is when you're doing something for someone else. I would say.
Oh, I see. For someone else.
Right. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because you don't necessarily. I mean, Zappa would say, I make this music for myself. If other people like it, that's great. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's sort of over romanticizing because he grew up in a capitalistic society, and he knew if he hit this note or hit this saying this word, kids would buy his records, and he could make more music.
So he's doing it for money.
Well, that's why his album's called "We're Only in It for the Money." But that's satiristic.
And that's work. And that's work.
And that's work. Yeah.
It's
But
not work when you're doing it for the pure pleasure of it.
Yeah. But it's complicated because once you turn your hobby into your job, then do you ruin your hobby? Like, did you ever make money selling poems or photographs?
No, and I intentionally have all my life have avoided trying to make money from the writing of poems.
Right.
But when I left my computer job, I wanted to see what it was like to be a freelance artist, and I had to choose which art. And just out of allegiance to writing and to language, the first one I thought of was to see if I could be a professional writer. But now these were not poems; this was prose, And so I spent a year exploring how well I could write. And the first 6 months, I started a new short story every morning. And then after 6 months, I went back and looked at all of these and fleshed out the ones that I thought were best. And at the end of the year, I said, "Right, I cannot make money with writing. This stuff is not good." And that's when I decided on photography as my next career.
And then you did sell photographs?
What I did, my goal was to be a fine art photographer, which is that I wanted to make art photos, not functional ones. I had been a commercial photographer for a while, but my dream was to try to make money by making artworks, photo artwork.
Right, fine art. And did that work?
No, I didn't. I was not able to do that. For one thing, there's a lot of kissing up that has to go on.
Oh God, yeah.
And that wasn't for me. I mean, if my work was really dazzling, I suppose I could have done it then. But I had to go to galleries and talk to people a lot, and I didn't want that. And on top of it, I was able to get freelance work with computers. That way, I could make much more money than I could with the photography. So I gave it a shot, and I tried to make museum quality prints. I brought a bunch of them to an upscale gallery, and they were not interested. And then I just realized I was not going to be able to support myself with this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's about roundabout, but I don't know.
That was good. That was good, Paul, because it goes into this. The basic two questions is archiving more innate or more invented? And do you have plans for your own archive? But let me set it up because it might stimulate a couple other thoughts. Because here's Charles Baudelaire. If you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to only own the day you're talking, it will last forever. That's like be here now, Ram Dass.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point of life is to live in the moment.
Absolutely.
But the word archive etymologically means 1400s, to keep safe, free from harm. And then 200 years later is what we know archive is: record preserved as evidence.
Right.
And so the Egyptians would put stuff in their coffin with them. And even Wyndham Lewis had a great line: artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. So do you think this need or want to collect an archive is more innate in humans or more invented?
Yeah, it seems innate.
Yeah.
I think it's, just an impulse. To collect things and to gather around yourself things that you like and to hold on to them.
Right.
I think what the Egyptians did, I think it was no different than me having all these books, and I have too much stuff in my house. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it all. And I think that the Egyptians had the same issue. They just collected lots of things that they liked, and they didn't want to throw them out, so they put them in their pyramid.
Right, but you don't have any. After you die, your loved ones or friends they're supposed to take all your poems and just toss them?
I guess so. I'm trying to I'm putting together a book of all my poems, and also a book of all the things I feel like I've learned throughout my life, to leave that as
right.
This is what I came here to do these things, and this is what I did, and here it is.
Yeah,
I doubt they'll be embraced, but I feel like that's the least I could do.
You mean you owe it to yourself?
I owe it to that I'm in this continuum of life.
Right.
I don't feel I owe it to myself. Or to any particular people, but to the whole process of life that I'm part of.
Wow, the process of life. That's good.
Thanks.
So, what question remains unresolved for you?
I'm interested in more of the details of how we came about and what's going on with all these species that get created. I'd really like to get more of an inside view of. I believe that all of us species are the artworks of a whole different society of. It's probably in a different dimension. The way we write poems, they create their poems are created sort of out of DNA, and they're not fixed objects like the objects of art that we create, but they're living things. So they live in time. They, instead of living stationarily as the art objects we have do, theirs have a time element. They grow and they have they grow. They start out. They get born, and then they go through a cycle of life.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, like the details of how we came about.
Right. I mean, I believe there is this society that's composed of millions of people. I would like a little view into them or some acknowledgement of them, some from them. It's not God. I mean, God is ridiculous. That's like saying uh, the person that invented anything is all is is all powerful. He's not. He's just a create. He just somehow had a good idea, created something.
Yeah.
And it took. It doesn't. Any kind of object that gets created on this planet, it requires a whole company, a whole team of people, teams of people. I
Yeah.
think that's true for us
Yeah.
living beings as well. Somebody came up with an idea for one of them, and then there are teams of people that built it and put it in place here. So I'd like some confirmation of that inclination.
Yeah. I like that. Couple more and we're out of here, Paul. Thank you so
Okay.
much. So how has your software career shaped your behavior? And then how has poetry shaped your behavior?
My software career shaped my behavior by giving me a confidence in my sense of logic. I mean, to build large software systems and have them work as well as they do really made me feel like I'm on some right track here, or that I have a good sense of logic.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anything that like that in the world of the artworks that I created. I don't know.
How has poetry shaped you? Because
How has poetry shaped?
Yeah, how has poetry shaped you? Whether you're writing or you've consumed it, you talk about Emily Dickinson, but just being immersed in poetry like you have, even
Right.
having I've been impressed that you have the courage to, I want to try Joyce out. Because let me tell you an observation I found in the Joyce world is being in it for almost 30 years. And still, I'm just a student. I don't know a lot. And it intrigues me. I'm finding more and more in these Joyce reading groups, like the New York one, that people like you, they have a career in a linear occupation, and they want to keep that linearity because then they go into the wake because it's like a jigsaw puzzle, or it's like writing code or
Right.
breaking the code so they can use this, and it's so more playful like you do. It's
Right.
like playful, but
It's
I'm trying to put the pieces together. So
Right.
I'm saying there's something about you that you have this one end that's science and this other end that's art, and it seems you've blended them. How has that art that art side shaped you?
Well, I mean, it shaped me viscerally.
Yeah.
I feel more. It's had me dwell more in my feelings than in my head, and so
Right.
that really completes me. You know, I feel like I feel like I've done a good job. It makes me feel I've done a good job both cerebrally and aesthetically.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so here's Thornton Wilder. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
It's all about feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about using as many of these resources that we come with.
Yeah.
We're incredible items, us humans.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about making as full use of all that we can do and feel and think as possible.
Yeah. It's good. What gives you the most optimism?
Oh, that's so general. What gives me the most optimism? I would guess it's the feelings I get with people that are on my wavelength.
Yeah.
That I really can connect with. There's an affirmation there that's bigger than just being pleasing someone or something. There's sort of an affirmation of life. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good, Paul, because it's the first question I asked is, what's the best thing for a human being? And saying that pastrami sandwich, my mouth's been watering. I'm like, I gotta Google, where in the fuck am I gonna get a good pastrami
right
sandwich?
Yeah, so you're in California, right?
I'm in Venice Beach. I mean, I'm thinking just go buy a little piece of pastrami and make my own sandwich. But
it's not the same. You have to Google Jewish delicatessen.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. But then the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being? And then we got into all your philosophies. The last question is, what gives you the most optimism? And the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being.
Oh, very nice.
And then the last question is, what gives you the most optimism? When they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life, he said other people, which you basically said.
I said the same thing, right?
You said the same thing. That's confirmation and connecting.
And a connect, right.
Yeah. Yes. So it's sure been fun spending this time with
same here. That was great.
Another person, especially because it was you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That was delightful. Very well done, Jerry, and a thorough pleasure.
And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
is there a link I can get to this? That
I'm going to send it to you in a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jerry. That was delightful. Take care.
Thank you.
Happy pastrami.